That's right, everybody. It's a new wrestling episode of Tapouts and Touchdowns. As always, it's your guy, Bully Rye, and we got some more wrestling content to bring you for our first wrestling show in 2024. We haven't quite gotten out of Season 5 of this podcast. I guess we'll call it Season 6 at WrestleMania. That's when we'll start that. But without further ado, for every wrestling episode of the show, we've got to have our wrestling show co-host, PJ Steven. PJ, what's going on, bud? How's things?
Things have been great. Things have been busy, and I've been very sick, which is why we haven't had the chance to do a whole lot of wrestling episodes. I've still got a little bit of a cough, but I'm ready to talk about arguably is going to be the greatest pay-per-view of 2024 because 17 was the greatest pay-per-view of 2023, in my opinion, and I can't wait to talk about what I think is the greatest pro wrestling on the planet. You know what it is, Frick. Every time I comment on one of these posts on our new page, The Wrestling Movement, put together by you and Michael Davis and Desmond, I'm lucky enough to come along for the ride. Everyone knows what I talk about when I talk about the greatest pro wrestling on the planet. Everybody knows what I'm talking about when I say you want to watch real pro wrestling, you want to watch real wrestling, you want to watch, which real wrestling is an oxymoron, but the closest thing you can get to it is, of course, New Japan Pro Wrestling, where today Frick and I will be talking about Wrestle Kingdom 18, and I cannot wait for it. You and I texted back and forth a little bit, so we've talked about the event a bit, but it's going to be nice to hear a clear perspective and really sink our teeth into this thing. Before we sink our teeth into that, though, I brought something up to you before we started recording, and I told you that there was a guy that you hate, a wrestler that you hate, who put out an article that's saying he's tougher than arguably one of the toughest wrestlers in the business. What are the you might know who I'm talking about when I say the wrestler you hate. He was part of a tag team. You hate both of these wrestlers, but you particularly hate the quote unquote leader of this tag team. Think late 80s WWF into early 90s WCW.
You're talking about the Nasty Boys and Brian Knobbs?
Brian Knobbs. God, you're so smart. Brian Knobbs put out an article saying that he was one of the toughest real wrestlers in the locker room, and he was tougher than, wait for it, Haku, who, and in their article expressed that he could beat up Haku. And Haku is one of the toughest dudes for real in the pro wrestling world. He was, of course, you might know him as Ming, teaming up with Barbarian. What was their tag team name? Do you remember?
They were the Faces of Fear.
Faces of Fear. Ming obviously was Haku later on, and of course in New Japan, joining the Bullet Club.
Wasn't he also part of the Head Shrinkers in WWE for a short period of time?
I think he was. That sounds right.
I know the Barbarian was. I can't remember if Haku was.
Because, he might have been. But could you imagine saying somebody like Brian Knobbs is tougher than Haku? I just want to hear you talk about it for a little bit. This has nothing to do with about. It's good content. I just want to hear you talk about it.
PJ, Brian Knobbs. Oh man. When you first brought up this conversation, I thought you were going to talk something about Eddie Kingston. And I was like, please don't tell me Eddie said he was tougher than everybody.
No, he's the second toughest guy in pro wrestling.
It is
three belts, baby. Eddie 3 belts.
It has been well documented that most of the locker rooms that Haku was a part of, the one person that nobody wanted to mess with was Haku.
Correct.
Brian Knobbs befriended Hulk Hogan / Terry Bollea, and like Brutus the Barber Beefcake, rode those coattails to a job everywhere Hogan went. When Hogan was in WWE, so was Brian Knobbs. When Hogan went to WCW, so did the Nasty Boys. When Hogan wound up in TNA, so did the Nasty Boys. So Brian Knobbs can claim to be this tough guy. Let me tell you a story if I haven't already told it on this. Let me get this Wrestle Kingdom off the video. Let me tell you a story about Brian Knobbs from a local indie show that took place here in Greenville, South Carolina, a couple years ago.
I don't think I've heard this story. Go ahead.
It's been documented on the radio show that this happened to. They were doing this show. There was an indie show in Spartanburg. I actually was there. It was the main attraction was Ricky Steamboat and Ric Flair were both in attendance. And if you paid like $150, you could take a picture with both of them and a big gold belt. It was this whole thing. And the Nasty Boys were slated to have a hardcore match because Brian Knobbs can't actually wrestle, so all he can do is use trash can lids and wet floor signs because the dude can't hit a move, he can't take a bump. And this was years ago, mind you. Cody Rhodes was there. I actually got a picture with Matt Hardy that day. It was right when the delete gimmick was up. Anyway,
I was just gonna say, what year was this?
This was right after Cody left WWE, right before he got big in New Japan. It was before New Japan.
So he was in Ring. I wonder if he was doing stuff in PWG and Ring of Honor at the time.
He may have been. I'm not sure.
Sounds right. Okay. Go ahead.
So this radio show has had an intern / co-host, whatever you want to call him, who wrestled indie dates. He was an indie wrestler. He's got a gimmick right now where he's like one of the the Koloffs. He's like a descendant of the Koloff. Anyway, at the time they were going to wrestle the Nasty. The guy on the show was going to wrestle the Nasty Boys on the card, and because the Rise guys were always, and I know I dropped it, and they'll know this story, and I'm telling this story like third hand. So if somebody from the Rise guys does listen to the show and I screwed something up, by all means, please come and join us, and you can tell the story firsthand, or I guess firsthand. So the Rise guys are one of the most beloved shows in the upstate of South Carolina. They're on the main rock station here. They have this morning show from 6 to 10 where they do all these fun gimmicks, and they do this thing on Wednesdays where they let a local band come on and play their songs so they can honestly review it. They do all these things, and the Rise people in the upstate know who the Rise guys are. And the Nasty Boys went to them backstage and said, all right, if you're going to go cut a promo, you need to cut a heel promo. You need to be the heel. Because, of course, Brian Knobbs needed to be the good guy. He needed to be the savior.
Yeah, doesn't make any sense for Brian. Anyone if you're called the Nasty Boys, you can't be baby. It's weird.
So one of the hosts on the show said, listen, I'm telling you right now, it's not going to work. But if you want me to cut a heel promo, I guess I can go out and cut a heel promo. If you really want me to try to get some heat, we'll do what we can to try to get some heat. Knob said, fine, whatever. So the host of the show decides to go out and get on the mic. And I was there. I heard the promo. And the way that he thought he could try to get heat for himself was to badmouth Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat, who had already had their moment. They had their photo op. They came in the ring. They thanked the city of Spartanburg for having them. They cut their little promos and they left. And so the way that he thought that he'd get heat was that he would cut this promo about, you know what? These guys took your money and they're gone. So what type of legends are these to take your money and walk? We're the ones here. We're the ones that live here. And of course, the Nasty Boys come out, save the day, beat the hell out of the two guys that were in the match, and so on and so forth. So they go backstage, and Brian Knobbs accosts the guy who cuts the promo and basically says, don't you ever disrespect a legend like Ric Flair again. Do you not know who we are? You don't have the right to come out and cut this promo on a legend, a guy that you know, et cetera, basically tried to choke this guy out, like legit grab him by the throat and accost him. And they had done like wrestling. They've done wrestling shows before where they made appearances where they signed autographs for the radio show, and they would accompany this guy. You know, I don't know what he goes by in the ring now, but they would accompany their buddy who was on the show to some of the shows to make, you know, this promotional appearance. And after that happened, they came on the radio that Monday, and they said, you know, I'll never do another wrestling show again. This was it for me. Like, and basically said, for all intents and purposes, shame on Brian Knobbs. Like, this dude, like, basically, I don't remember their exact words.
Yeah.
But for all intents and purposes, Brian Knobbs is a clown.
Yeah.
He asked these guys to go out and cut a heel promo. They did what they could to get over as a heel because they knew that the crowd knew who they were and they weren't going to get over as bad guys.
Absolutely.
So how do you get over as a bad guy, but to go after the biggest baby faces on the card, Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat, and Brian Knobbs tried to big dog him and tried to bully a radio host that was not a wrestler. The guy that cut the promo didn't wrestle. He was just a host of the radio show.
So Brian Knobbs
is a tough guy when it comes to radio show hosts.
Yeah, so he tried to big time this guy. Well, hey, all you've done is just prove to me that Brian Knobbs might be the toughest guy in the locker room. he was definitely the toughest guy in that locker room. No, let me tell you. Okay, so who kissed ass more to Hulk Hogan, Beefcake or Brian Knobbs?
I would have to say Knobbs because at one point,
really, okay.
I say that because at one point Beefcake got caught stealing selling forged autographs with him and Hogan, and so they had a falling out.
Oh my God, I remember that, and I blocked that from my memory. I remember that. What an idiot!
And that's probably the majority of the reason why Beefcake didn't make the WWE Hall of Fame sooner. WWE Hall of Fame sooner, but I mean, like Coco Beware, I don't think Beefcake belongs anywhere near it.
No. You know who does belong in the Hall of Fame? I think every single member of the roster who was on New Japan for Wrestle Kingdom 18. Let's get back to that. I'm sorry.
What a segue.
Like that. I'm sorry to get us off track. I just really wanted to hear you talk about that. And I like that story. That's a good story. I had never heard that. Guys, Wrestle Kingdom 18 obviously took place in the Tokyo Dome. It is always on January 4th. It is something that I look forward to every single year. 28,000 in attendance. Your main event, of course, being Sanada, who was your IWGP Heavyweight Champion, taking on Tetsuya Naito, who was your G1 Climax winner last year. Oh, my God. We're going to talk a little bit about the build-up to that later on. But, Frank, let's go ahead. Let's start going through these matches a little bit.
Yeah, like you said, New Japan Pro Wrestling, it's New Japan's premier pay-per-view of the year. If you have their new New Japan Strong app, you could have watched this live like I tried to do. Because if you didn't watch the last football episode that we did, you would know that I've been out of work and I will be out of work for the foreseeable future due to a broken rib. And so I tried it was a time where I couldn't sleep. And so I texted Peach and I said, hey, bud, I guess I'm watching this with you. And I did fall asleep.
That was a cool feeling, though. I was like, oh, man, Frank's on. There were a bunch of people that were on. It was really nice. You know why he had a broken rib? Brian Knobbs came into his house, and he showed him what nasty was all about.
He said, you don't tell stories that are bad about the Nasty Boys. We'll introduce you to Nastyville, okay?
I don't know who had the nastier cough. You, because that's actually how you broke your rib, or me, because my cough is still here.
You just got to be careful with it, man. You don't want to wind up on the mend like I did.
You know what's funny? So I've had problems these past maybe 3 or 4 days. I haven't really told anybody. I think I did something to my tailbone because it hurts. I swear to God, I'm not making this up from the rib story. It hurts standing up or like when I'm prone and I get back up, or when I'm sitting back down. But if I'm just laying there or whatever, I don't feel any pain. But like going back up, it's like
you gotta tell
what is going on.
You gotta tell Lauren to be a little more gentle when you're getting to that point in the night. You know what I'm saying? Like that's that the tailbone only hurts for one reason. And but
I told her I got to stop arching my back so much.
Yeah, that's probably it. You'll throw your back out like that too.
Yeah.
The show, Wrestle Kingdom 18, started off with the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championships on the line as the Bullet Club War Dogs. The team featuring Drilla Maloney and Clark Connors defended against, as it Catch 22, it's Catch 2/2. I'm assuming it's Catch 22. The team of TJP and Francesco Akira. Akira, thank you. Akira, yeah, like almost like the car brand. Listen, this match was kind of overlooked by the fact that TJP came out wearing a Fiend mask. Like it wasn't the Fiend mask, but it was very reminiscent of the Fiend mask, and they did a lot of talking about this on commentary. Spoiler alert: we have new champions. This Catch 22 goes over and wins the Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championships here. PJ, what was your thoughts on the decision by TJP to come out with this Fiend-like gimmick here? And what were your overall thoughts about the match?
So the match was great, but I think that um, they focused too much on that mask. However, Japan loves that kind of stuff. The reason he was in the coffin with the mask and all is because they had the tag team coffin match at Road to Tokyo Dome, where the War Dogs uh, buried TJP, and that's why TJP wasn't at the press conference. All this noise. I want to quote something from Jill Mahoney. It was really, really cool that I haven't really thought about a whole lot. Catch 22 is the tag team with the most IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team wins. They really put those belts back on the map, in my opinion. And Trilla Mahoney cuts a little promo at the press conference, and he says, only because I can't say the exact quote because I forgot, but it's basically like, the amount of times that you won the belts, that's how many times you lost them, you stupid loser. Like, I mean, he was just cutting deep. Also, Bullet Club War Dogs debuted new tag team belts with the white stripes, which I thought was really cool. Although wearing the white stripe over the white tights, I thought was a bad choice. That being said, the match was great. But I just think we focused too much on that mask. And I would have loved to see TJP kind of take over the match a little bit. But right off the rip, we had the heels beating the hell out of the baby faces, which is standard. But because of that mask, I would have liked to see a little bit more. Oh wow, TJP's really kind of being that Fiend character, because that's what that mask really looked like. It reminded me of some zombie Ghost of Tsushima vibes,
To me, it resembled like if I think it was a sand people, or there was a of course I can't think of the word, a species of life form in the Star Wars universe that had you had a nightmare, this is what it would have looked like. But nevertheless, it was a fun match. I'm with you as far as they spent too much time focusing on the mask, especially with commentary. The I'm glad you mentioned the new straps. I just went through, while I've had some time off, and went through WWE 2K and downloaded all of the New Japan belts to create like a universe. And the junior tag belts still had the black straps. So I was able to go in and put the white straps on them. So cool. Did you think the right team went over here? Do you like Catch 22? Like, what do you see for them going forward?
Those guys definitely deserve to go over. I mean, Bullet Club War Dogs, they're not done yet. I love someone asked me the other day, is Bullet Club getting old? And in a way, yes, but in another way, they've really evolved themselves with having these sub factions. You have House of Torture, you have the Bullet Club War Dogs, and now you have the GOD. And it's all kind of part of Bullet Club, but it's how you keep it fresh, in my opinion, because each team is kind of doing their own thing while under that Bullet Club umbrella. The difference between the NWO and the Wolfpack was they were colliding all the time, and that got old. But if you have the umbrella of the Bullet Club and then you have the separate factions kind of doing their own thing, to me, it doesn't get stale. So I love the War Dogs. I think David Finley's doing a great job with, Gabriel Kidd, Alex Coughlin, and then, of course, the Drilla Maloney and Clark Connors. So I think it's good stuff.
All right. There's your IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship tag team, I should say, match that opened up this Wrestle Kingdom card. Next up, we had the World Television Championship. Hiroshi Tanahashi taking on the champion Zack Sabre Jr. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was Zack Sabre Jr. not the inaugural winner, and did he not hold this championship until this pay-per-view?
Yeah, he beat Ren Narita last year or year before. Right, he beat Ren Narita Wrestle Kingdom 17 to be the very first World Television Champion. He had 16 defenses last year and held it for a full year until, spoiler alert, Tanahashi was able to defeat him, Zack Sabre Jr., I believe in like 11 minutes, or 8 minutes, 8 minutes and 53 seconds. I again, really enjoyed this match. The Clash of Styles was fun. Tanahashi having to kind of get on Zack Sabre Jr.'s level to try and out-technician him was really great to watch. I love that the finish was realistic. It was it was Okada roll, 1-2, back to roll, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2, 1-2. And it just goes to show how realistic the booking is for New Japan, because it's like, what have I told you all the time? All it takes is 3 seconds to lose a match. And it just happened to be Tanahashi was able to cover Zack Sabre Jr. for an extra second. I thought it was great. And people were already crying, saying, well, because if you don't know, Hiroshi Tanahashi is now is the new president of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And when people think president, they're like, oh, so he books now. And
yeah, I had a feeling that was going to come.
And so Jado and Gato are still booking. They've been the bookers for New Japan for years. So to suggest that because there's a new president all of a sudden that he's going to be the booker is so single-minded to me and the lowest IQ. And by the way, it's the World Television Champion, a belt that you didn't know existed a year ago. And so Tanahashi.
Well, it didn't exist until a year ago, to be fair.
Good point. Oh, I'm sorry. That's kind of what I meant. But Tanahashi becomes president, and the first thing he's going to say is like,
I want the TV title.
I got to get my hands on that television champion. You know,
that's a really good point.
I mean, for real though, like if it was, I mean, it's like Nash wasn't the president of WCW. He was booking WCW, which is why he was able to go over on Goldberg and all the stun gun and all that. So if it had turned out that Tanahashi was booking New Japan, it'd be a little sus. But president, same thing. But these are coming from the same IQ people that think the president controls the gas prices. So I don't know what I'm saying. Either way,
Tanahashi, you're saying you're not upset with Tanahashi getting the win and taking the title here?
No, I would have been happy with any of these guys winning. Zack Sabre Jr. keeping the belt for another year or something would have been great. I will say that I wish somebody, again, it's just the TV title, but I want to see them make the TV title something kind of like WCW did. When WCW had the TV title, it was almost as important as the Intercontinental Championship, in my opinion. I'd like to see this kind of go on like that. That being said, I do like the Tanahashi one because I always like to see Tanahashi on TV, man.
So
he's still got it at his age. He's a fantastic worker, and he's a swell dude.
So you said Zack Sabre Jr. defended it 16 times last year. That's what, like 9 times more than Roman defended his title. Kidding. But I'm
not kidding, though.
I'm only serious, guys. No, I do like the television title. So first of all, what are your thoughts on the fact that they called it the New Japan Pro Wrestling World Television Championship instead of the IWGP Television Championship? I
like it because it promotes their app.
Yeah, no, it's great. Listen, I'm with you. I love the idea of the television title. I loved it in WCW. You know, that was the working man's title. That title was defended on every single Nitro. It was defended on a lot of the WCW Saturday nights and the worldwides that came on Sundays. You had a bunch of different champions between your favorite wrestler, Prince Iaukea, William Regal, Booker T, Rick Martel, I believe, was television champion at one time. So a lot of different, I mean, it sort of propelled everybody up the list. Booker T was television champion before he was U.S. champion, before he was world champion. Scott Steiner, television champion before he was U.S. champion. It was like that title to give you an opportunity to prove yourself as a single star before they elevated you up the list. I like the design of the title in New Japan. It reminds me of an NWA style.
Yes, I was just going to say that. You know, and when I first saw it, I was like, I don't really like it because it kind of reminds me of a TV. But then when you look at it more and then you kind of get it, I'm like, that's what I came to mind too. It's like it's kind of like an NWA thing. Before we move on from the television champion, I do want to ask real quick, who's the first wrestler that comes to your mind when you think of WCW television champion?
Honestly, Booker T.
Me too.
He was when I was growing up, like when I first started watching wrestling, you had guys like Alex Wright, you had Rick Steiner was a television champion, but like it was the whole, like, I believe it was Benoit and Booker T had the series of 7 for the television championship, if I'm not mistaken. And it felt like Booker T, like it was, so I started watching it right as like, I wouldn't say the Harlem Heat was fading, but it was like the Harlem Heat were feuding with Bunkhouse Buck and Dirty Dick Slater. When Sister Sherry and Colonel Robert Parker were sort of like dating on the side. And not long after that, I don't know, I guess Stevie Ray got injured and Booker T started getting the singles push. And that's why I remember the television championship going to Booker T more than anybody else. I mean, Disco Inferno was television champion.
They wanted Stevie Ray and the NWO for some reason.
Yeah, eventually they put him there. So, yeah, no, I listen. I wasn't upset that Tanahashi went over. My first thought was that he's going to catch a lot of crap because now he's the president of the company. He was the one to dethrone Zack Sabre Jr. Do you think? I'm not sure what his contract looks like. Do you think there's a chance that Zack Sabre Jr. eventually moves on from New Japan and maybe joins the Will Ospreys and whatnots and the Jay Whites over in AEW? Or do you think that this is just like a stepping stone? Maybe they're going to propel Zack Sabre Jr. to bigger and better things here. Maybe get him in the look for the global championship, if you will.
Yeah, I think they'll push Zack Sabre Jr. a little bit more. TMDK is really taken on a little bit more fire. And, I mean, Savage Sabre Jr. is a former New Japan Cup winner. So we could get that again. He's been in the finals for the G1. So, I mean, I think losing the television champion is just another stepping stone for him, as you just talked about. I mean, he's already proved that he can, hold that division for a full year. So there's no roof for Zack Sabre Jr. He's an amazing worker.
No ceiling, if you will. I think that's weird. Anyway, listen, we started the show off with 2 championship matches. Now we got back-to-back non-championship matches. You're going to have to help me pronounce this. Yota Tsuji.
Yeah,
taking on Yuya Umura. Like, how do you pronounce that last name?
Yuya Uemura.
Yuya Uemura taking on Yota Tsuji. I think you texted me during this and you said these guys are the future of New Japan. Talk about this match. They gave it, 10 minutes. It got more time than the television title match and the junior heavyweight tag team championship match. This match got 10 minutes, 57 seconds. Give us your thoughts on this. Yuya, I'm already screwed it up again.
Yuya Uemura versus
Yuya Uemura versus Yota Tsuji. Give us your thoughts on this match.
So what's great about this is both of these guys came up as young lions in the New Japan dojo. Yota Tsuji made his I guess re-debut mid last year to take on Sanada at Dominion, which is where we got the big Bryan Danielson promo against Okada, which was great. Yuya Uemura came back to join Just 5 Guys to join Sanada, and those guys were neck and neck, very much so, with Yota going over, then Yuya going over. Yuya actually pinned him in that 6 or 8 man tag match at Road to Tokyo Dome, where he challenged Yota to a singles match. And of course, there's only one place you can do it at, and that is the Tokyo Dome, which is amazing. I put Yota Tsuji as my runner-up. What is it? Like rookie of the year or whatever on our little award thing. Because he is a tremendous athlete. He's got so much charisma, and that stupid little smile he does, where he's just got his pearly white showing. It's different from the usual, I guess, personalities or the usual MO of a lot of Japanese wrestlers, which is great. I think Yota Tsuji is fantastic, and Yuya is great in his own way as well. But I think these two are the future. Absolutely.
Good stuff. Again, this match went just right under 11 minutes. To giving them some time on this Wrestle Kingdom without a title on the line. The next match on the card also had no championship on the line. The House of Torture, the team of Evil and Rin Narita, taking on Shota Umino and Kaito Kiyomiya. Did I get that right?
Kaito
Kiyomiya?
Yeah, Kiyomiya.
Kaito Kiyomiya. This match only went 7 minutes. But a little fun tag team throw-in match here. PJ, your thoughts on this tag team match leading into the next championship match here on this card at Wrestle Kingdom?
This was the weakest match on the card. It wasn't great. The whole reason you had this is because Shota Umino and Rin Narita were in the World Tag League. Rin Narita betrayed Shota Umino and joined House of Torture. And that's why this match was there. Kaito, of course, is from Pro Wrestling Noah. He's most famous for going really stiff on Okada, and Okada beating the hell out of him for real in the back or outside of the ring. That was awesome. But it just goes to show, I guess, no such thing as bad publicity because he was in the G1 and now he's in Wrestle Kingdom in the Tokyo Dome. The match was disappointing. First of all, House of Torture is like your, I just compared the NWO earlier, but they are kind of like your NWO because they're forever doing some interference, and I'm a fan of Evil. I really do. But, the whole match was just them doing what they can to cheat to win. And I get it. They're the heels in the business right now. The other thing that made me laugh is Kaito came out with somebody from Pro Wrestling Noah. And while House of Torture were beating the hell out of Shota and Kaito, the other guy was nowhere to be found. And I'm like, well, you brought out a guy from Pro Wrestling Noah. What the hell's he doing? What I did want, I guess, you can't send them all home happy, but I would have loved to see some of the guys from Pro Wrestling Noah make their way to the ring and take care of House of Torture so that Shota and Ren can have their moment. But that's okay because New Beginning coming up here in a couple of weeks. We finally get a big grudge match between Shota Umino and Ren Narita. But no, Evil and Ren Narita go over here. Short match. It was the weakest match in the card, but still fun.
Well, they needed a time killer because next up on the card, we have the Never Openweight Championship. Tama Tonga looking to regain the Never Openweight Championship against Shingo Takagi. Shingo Takagi, a guy that you are a big fan of. This match went just under 13 minutes. And Tama Tonga regains the Never Openweight Championship. First of all, I was unaware that, years ago, I thought the Guerrillas of Destiny, GOD, was Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa as part of the Bullet Club. I was unaware of the fact that they've now broken away and created their own faction that extends beyond Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa. So, PJ, your thoughts on Tama Tonga regaining this championship from your guy Shingo Takagi, and what are your thoughts on the future of GOD here in New Japan?
I'm happy with it. I'm a big fan of Shingo and I'm a big fan of Tama Tonga. Ironically, I saw Shingo Takagi. Actually, I say Joe and I, our old buddy Joseph Dabbitt.
Shout out Joe.
I love that guy so much. We traveled to Vegas to see this amazing New Japan event. But more importantly, we saw Tama Tonga take on Shingo Takagi in the main event for the Never Openweight Champion. And Shingo Takagi went over. I couldn't believe it. I got a picture with Shingo, too. It was awesome. I love Tama Tonga, and it's fine that he won. But, man, I would have loved Shingo to go over and have Tama Tonga. I want Tama Tonga to have the belt. I want him to have the IWGP Championship because I think he could really help carry the company. And I just wish they'd pull the trigger on Tama Tonga. That's all I'm saying. That being said, I am still happy he went over. The match was incredible. Seeing Shingo Takagi try to do the Made in Japan and Tama Tonga reversing it into a stun gun. Oh, I popped at 3 o'clock in the morning. It was amazing. Loved it. I want to give a shout out to my wife too, who she knew. I didn't let her know this, but I was kind of lonely because I usually shout out to my buddy Andre from Charleston. He would come over every Wrestle Kingdom at 2 o'clock in the morning. We would eat and drink and watch Wrestle Kingdom. It was always so fun. Sometimes our buddy Gravy would come over. I mean, sometimes people would come over for Wrestle Kingdom. We'd try to do a big breakfast or something. But she knew that I had nobody to watch it with this year because, of course, we moved to New Mexico. So she took the day off of work and woke up with me. We moved the mattress out to the living room and we watched Wrestle Kingdom together. So shout out to my wife. I really, really appreciate that. But, man,
and that is where you hurt your tailbone.
That's where, because I laid on a mattress on the hardwood floor.
That's what we'll go.
I got so excited with this wrestling that I had to wrestle her. But no, this match was fantastic. And this is, to me, where Wrestle Kingdom started going from, this was good. Oh, that was great. Oh, that was fantastic. That was awesome. That was, from here on, every match is just spectacular.
Well, before we go from here on, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, the next matchup on the card is another tag team match. This is an all winner take all match for the IWGP and the Strong Openweight Tag Team Championships. We'll talk about that and more when we come back right here on Tapouts and Touchdowns. This episode is brought to you by Carolina Business Equipment. With offices in Charleston, Greenville, Columbia, and Florence, Carolina Business Equipment can supply your copiers, computers, and printers anywhere in the state of South Carolina. Call my personal best friend Aaron Thompson at 843-452-8761 for a quote today, and make sure you tell him that Ryan from Tapouts and Touchdowns sent you. Carolina Business Equipment, you worry about your business, let us handle your technology. And we are back here on Tapouts and Touchdowns, your guy, Bully Rye, alongside PJ Steven, and we're talking New Japan Pro Wrestling Wrestle Kingdom 18. We just got done talking about the Never Openweight Championship. Well, now we get to talk about the strong Openweight Tag Team Championships, as well as the IWGP, Heavyweight Tag Team Championships. The Guerrillas of Destiny, the team of El Phantasmo and Hikuleo, taking on the team Bishamon, Haruki Goto, and Yoshihashi. This match goes, 8 minutes, 56 seconds. And again, it was a winner-take-all. Your strong open-weight tag team champions, El Phantasmo and Hikuleo. Your IWGP World Tag Team Champions, Haruki Goto and Yoshihashi. PJ, this was for all the marbles. This was from the wasn't a World Tag League that was where this match came out of. Is that correct?
So World Tag League was great because this was the first time that you had the IWGP Heavyweight Champions win World Tag League. And this was a three-peat. They won them they won the World Tag League 3 times in a row. Of course, Wrestle Kingdom 18 or Wrestle Kingdom 17, they defeated FTR to become the World Heavy or the IWGP World Tag Team Champions, which is great. So Bishamon and ELP and Hikuleo in the very first round, and I texted you this at the very first round of the World Tag League.
You did.
Guerrillas of Destiny defeated Bishamon in spectacular fashion, and I was like, what are we doing? I loved it. So of course we make it to the finals, or Bishamon gets their win back and defeats them in the finals, and then Bishamon says, well, we need an opponent for Wrestle Kingdom now. We get to pick our opponent. You beat us the first time. We beat you just now. So we have a tiebreaker. So we'll see you at Wrestle Kingdom, but we want your strong openweight tag team champions as well. So for the first time in New Japan history, you had the IWGP World Tag Team Champions taking on your strong openweight tag team champions in a winner-take-all, just like you said. A lot riding on this match. Listen, the match was amazing. I'm selfish. I just wanted more.
You wanted more.
I wanted a longer match, but the match was still hard-hitting and quick and fast. And boy, a lot of sportsmanship. The crowd loves that. God, that Japanese crowd loves sportsmanship. Good God. They do. But man,
there's so many things I can say that I'm going to keep to myself.
Sure, they love when they shake hands. They're like, "Oh, yay, sportsmanship." Whereas I'm like, take his. Never mind. Then twist it. Anyway,
you can twist it. The old twist.
Yeah. But anyway, I'm practicing for Michael Davis's show coming up next.
Good.
I have to censor myself. But no. I just wanted a little bit more. But the match was phenomenal. I did feel bad for the finish. Hikuleo doing that splash off the top rope. All I could think of was like Sid Vicious. And but it's still, he didn't hurt himself by any means. There was no injury. But still, terrific match. Loved it. And I love that ELP and Hikuleo went over. And they are now your double champions.
Do you think we're gonna see more from these two teams to maybe continual rivalry, and we're going to see, hey, we want our titles back and we want your titles back? Like, how do you see them separating these titles again?
Part of me thinks they won't separate them and they might just unify them as they've done in the past with the Intercontinental and the IWGP Heavyweight Champion. No, I think you could easily separate them because if there's a team on New Japan Strong who is not in contention for the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion, well, they beat him for the Strong Champions, and now after that, they could be in contention for the IWGP Tag Team Champions. New Japan works weird like that. They're very much
They could always do like a 2 out of 3 falls like they did a few years ago in WWE. I say a few years ago. It's been 20 years now.
Oh,
Where
with
the
the
Intercontinental
European
and
and
the
Intercontinental?
Intercontinental and European
Yeah.
Championship, 2 out of 3 falls, and
I think
winner
that's a
of the
great
first
idea,
fall. Yeah.
honestly. Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
It's
And
what they need to do with the WWE Tag Team Championships, to be honest. Like, they need to
oh
separate
yeah,
them, and that's a great way to do it.
I agree with that. I think that'd be a good idea, honestly.
Let's move on to the next match in the card. We get an IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship match. El Desperado taking on the champion Hiromu Takahashi. These guys can go. You know, I'm a fan of El Desperado as well. Man, I am
I
really
love him.
excited. Like I get excited whenever I see El Desperado on a card. Matter of fact, I mentioned earlier on the show, I downloaded all the New Japan titles to put on WWE 2K, and I downloaded El Desperado because I'm like, I need to put him on there. And it's hard to explain how the video game goes, especially because anybody listening to the show may not be a gamer, but you can have like custom images of like real people instead of just like the cartoon images of the created characters that will show up when the match starts. And I couldn't find, I had to find one for El Desperado. Well, there's some sort of bug in the servers of WWE 2K. And all of a sudden, I tried to download somebody else and delete somebody's logo, this, that, and the other. And I went back to make sure all my titles were good. And the Junior Heavyweight Championship that I wanted to put on El Desperado was vacant. I'm like, what the heck happened to El Desperado? And the game had deleted El Desperado by itself. So I had to go back and find the El Desperado that I downloaded and this whole thing. Anyway,
That would drive me crazy.
Oh,
like with all the time that I put in to doing that, and then it
three 3 days,
yeah,
like 3 full days of downloading, and then you can only have so many images before it makes you stop. So you have to delete people and delete logos and delete images. It's a hassle.
It took you 3 days. Way to go, buddy! It took us 3 days to make that potato salad. 3 days.
I don't get it.
This is SpongeBob.
Oh yeah, I don't
SpongeBob lands like feet first with his stupid little toes.
I think
someone's potato salad.
I think this is officially the first time that we found the age gap where we don't meet because I never watched SpongeBob.
Man, SpongeBob was awesome.
I aged out. PJ, your thoughts on the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Championship? Did they get it right by putting the title back on El Desperado?
I think they did. Hiromu Takahashi. When I think of the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, I think Jushin Thunder Liger right off the rip.
Of course.
And now I'm starting to think of her. I think of Will Ospreay as well, but now I think of Hiromu Takahashi. He is really the carrier for that IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. But now I'd like to see him evolve a little bit and put him in the heavyweight division. Put him for that global championship, which we'll talk about soon. It happened with Jushin Thunder Liger. It happened with Will Ospreay. I think Takahashi is the next guy up, and we're going to talk about. To me, we're going to talk about the whole theme of this entire Wrestle Kingdom 18 when we're finished. But I think Hiromu Takahashi, with what I just spit out, goes with that theme in my opinion. But no, I think El Desperado was the guy to win. This match was hard hitting and fast and quick and everything that you want in a junior cruiserweight, light heavyweight, whatever you want to call it, title match.
Yeah, listen, if you have never seen anything from El Desperado, or for that matter, Hiromu Takahashi, get the New Japan Strong app and go and find some stuff from El Desperado because you will not be disappointed. I don't think I've ever seen
in Charlotte when Lauren and I went to that New Japan house show. It was Blake Christian, El Desperado, and Takahashi, and that match was phenomenal. And El Desperado went over there too. But I just love his little bow that he does, and like he cuts these funny promos, and like it's good stuff.
All right, next up on the card we have the IWGP. Did we get ahead of ourselves? I moved.
Yeah, we're missing.
Yeah,
and we're missing.
Yeah,
Okada.
That got moved. That's my apologies, but that got moved out of order. The next up is the Global Heavyweight Championship match, correct?
Yes.
That was next up on the card. Phew. I tried to move some stuff around and move that into the wrong spot. The next matchup, if you're not watching the video, then you're fine. You just hear us like jumbling over ourselves and mumbling over ourselves, stumbling, rumbling, jumbling, fumbling. The IWGP Global Heavyweight Championship, the inaugural Global Heavyweight Championship, because if you did not hear the last time that we actually had a show, we talked about the fact that David Finlay destroyed what was originally the IWGP United States Championship turned into, was it the British Heavyweight Championship?
The IWGP UK
UK Championship by Will Ospreay. And David Finlay absolutely destroyed this title. And so so New Japan decided, you know what? We won't talk about the fact that there was a US and a UK. This is just going to be the global heavyweight championship. And it's a beautiful title too. And so we get David Finlay taking on Will Ospreay and Jon Moxley in a triple threat match. Will Ospreay, if nobody's aware, has signed a contract with AEW. So this Wrestle Kingdom was one of his last contractually obligated matches with New Japan. And then Jon Moxley just likes to come to Japan and wrestle. I'm sure Will Ospreay will do the same thing. But, you're going to throw Jon Moxley on this card somewhere. PJ, how'd you feel about this match? I kind of really enjoyed it. It went 22 minutes. It was the third longest match on the card, 22 minutes, 15 seconds. There was some violence. And at one point, I was hurt. My mom had to come help me with a couple things. And I wanted to show her some New Japan. So I started watching this match. And all of a sudden, I don't see Jon Moxley get hit in the head with anything. I maybe see him go through a table, back first. And next thing you know, he's crawling in the ring. And now I understand why fans are always complaining about, Jon Moxley always bleeding. What happened that made Jon Moxley get busted open in this match, PJ?
David Finlay slammed his head into the table that he broke.
That's weak. All right.
What do you mean that's weak?
So. That's weak.
You can bleed from that.
It's not like he stabbed him with the rough edge of the table.
It's not like anyone gets stabbed with a rough edge of a chair.
That's fair. I hate you. Thoughts? David Finlay wins the inaugural Global Heavyweight Championship. Obviously, to me, it makes sense. And we actually talked about this briefly because it made sense to me. Ospreay's on the way out. Moxley's not contractually tied to New Japan. So it made sense as David Finlay went over. But you thought that maybe giving the title to someone not under contract with New Japan might help grow the brand, help get some global eyes on the product. And so you were kind of surprised when David Finlay went over here. Am I remembering that conversation wrong?
So I wasn't really surprised. It's funny you say global. That's no pun intended there, huh? No, I'm not saying that I was surprised that Finlay went over. I did say that this belt seemed like it was made for David Finlay. But what my point was that because you called it the global heavyweight champion, that it really, to me, makes it seem like any of these guys could have gone over because it seems like you're going to defend it globally.
Yep.
So it could have been defended in AEW or All Japan or even AAA or wherever. And I think that's the point. But again, I said, David Finlay, he was in the semifinals for the G1. They're really pushing him as the Bullet Club leader. Ospreay's final match is going to be a 5-on-5 between Bullet Club War Dogs and United Empire in a cage match. That's going to be Ospreay's final match in Japan, and I'm assuming that the Bullet Club War Dogs will go over because they want to keep pushing David Finlay as your global heavyweight champion. But I could have seen any three of these guys going over, and I think it was a hell of a match, man. And David Finlay, to me, he's kind of won me over a little bit when he came out and took over Bullet Club to retire Jay White. I was like, this is the guy you guys are picking, David Finlay. And I was like, man, this isn't going to work. And sure enough, was I wrong? Because it's working pretty good, man. I mean, he's not top of the food chain yet, but I mean, he's a monster heel and he's got heat with the Japan crowd. And the War Dogs got heat. God, Gabriel Kidd, he gets booed out of the building, man. I mean, you would think he was Dom. Except he can work. I'm just kidding. Dom can work. Dom can work.
Dom has gotten a lot better.
Dom was on my list for the most improved wrestler of the year. A big fan of Dom. Always. And what did I say when Dom first came out? I said, give him time to get away from the Rey Mysterio shadow. And then when he got put in Judgment Day, it was like, oh, great. He's in a faction where he could get pushed up. Dom's going to be the guy. And PJ Steven right again, baby. But no, this match was fantastic, just to let you know. I mean, go back and rewatch this if you can. Fantastic triple threat.
Well, something happened after this match that's worth referring to. Earlier in the card, we saw a familiar face in the front row, and he is now. Well, I wanted to say after this pay-per-view, we assumed that he was under contract with New Japan Pro Wrestling, and after this match, has a face-off with the new Global Heavyweight Champion, formerly known as Dolph Ziggler, Nick Nemeth. Debuts in New Japan Pro Wrestling. Now, since then, and we're going to talk this on a later episode about the current state of the wrestling world, Nick Nemeth has now also shown up in TNA at TNA's Hard to Kill pay-per-view when they went back from Impact Wrestling and rebirthed. Is that a word? I kind of sound gross saying it. Rebranded back to TNA. And so Nick Nemeth showed up with a TNA shirt on. So I don't know if the Nick, formerly known as Dolph Ziggler, is going to work back and forth between New Japan and TNA, but I kind of marked when I saw him on the show. We talked about this off the air. He actually showed up. He showed up on camera before this match, but you automatically thrust him into a big storyline with David Finlay here.
Oh my God. Yeah, I couldn't believe it because they brought him out with Ryan Nemeth, his brother, who's under contract for AEW. And they brought him out during the tag team match for the IWGP Heavyweight and the Strong Open Weight. And I said, shoot, are they going to be thrust in the tag team division all of a sudden? And then nothing happened. And then nothing happened. And then the triple threat comes, and then David Finlay gets right in Nick Nemeth's face. And what you don't see is if you watch the aftermath where, the champions will go back and say their piece in the little press conference like stuff that New Japan does. Nick Nemeth attacks Finlay backstage and beats him up, and it's pretty fun to see. It's amazing. And we'll talk about this, like I said, the state of the business. He's got a match with David Finlay at one of the New Beginnings coming up here in January. Not only him, Mustafa Ali has a match against Hiromu Takahashi coming up here in the New Beginning. Jon Moxley is working Tetsuya Naito later on in the New Beginning in January. It's like a lot of these guys, when they get kicked out of the E, and Matt Riddle just showed up on our New Japan event, Battle of the Valley, that we'll touch on a little bit. These guys go from WWE and they're like, no, I want to go where the pro wrestling is. I want to go where wrestling is. And they even skip over AEW because even that's got Gaga. And they go to New Japan Pro Wrestling, and it's in the numbers. And numbers physically cannot lie.
Yeah, I'm with you. Listen, I'm really excited to see. A lot of people talked about how great Dolph Ziggler was in the ring. And, he was happy. Like, he seemed happy in WWE, just kind of floating around, not even in the mid card, but like almost like a part-timer on the roster that would show up when they need somebody to get a big win. And as Ziggler was a former world champion, we'll feed Ziggler to him, and that'll do something for him. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to see what people are going to say now, outside of the fact that he's gone to the Indies. I'm curious to see what people are going to say negatively about his ability to perform now that he's no longer in WWE, because that for some reason that's your typical go-to as a WWE mark. Oh, that guy couldn't make it in WWE. Well, he could. And Ziggler was great on the mic.
Did. He was a great World Heavyweight Champion. He was just the NXT World Heavyweight Champion.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see what those people are going to come up with.
It's the same thing with Mercedes Moné.
Yeah. Oh,
former champion.
Everybody loved Sasha Banks. And as soon as she went to New Japan, everybody started talking about Botcha Banks, et cetera, et cetera. Yep. Yeah.
And I'm like, well, it's the same thing to me with football fans and I know I've talked about this before.
That's a great example because it happened over the weekend.
When your favorite football player changes teams and you're like, well, he's wearing a different shirt. Boo that man.
Oh my God.
It's like, get out of here.
We're running against it, so we have to take another break. But I do want to tell you this story. The Detroit Lions hosted the LA Rams in the wild card round of the NFL playoffs this past weekend.
I saw your picture.
2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, the Los Angeles Rams and the Detroit Lions made a trade that swapped quarterbacks. So Matt Stafford went out to LA. Jared Goff came to Detroit. Matt Stafford won a Super Bowl in year 1, got hurt last year. This is year 3 with the LA Rams, and they made the playoffs as a wild card team. The Lions won the NFC North First Division Championship in 30 years and host the LA Rams, the first time Matt Stafford.
The LA Lambs.
Yeah. They were lambs because they were lambs for the what's it called? They were sacrificial lambs because they were sacrificed by the Detroit Lions and the win. So the LA Rams, the first time Matt Stafford has returned to Detroit since he was traded. And there was this attempted jersey ban. No Matt Stafford jerseys were going to be allowed at the game. They booed him when he came out for pregame warmups. Late in the game, he got rolled up on, like he got hit hard and then smacked in the head. His head hit the ground, like he had to go in the medical tent. And the fans cheered for it as they almost killed a quarterback that helped build a Lions program that, granted, never did anything. But they booed him when he came out, cheered when he got hurt. And in the post-game press conference, somebody asked him how he felt about the city of Detroit finally getting a playoff win. And his response was, "I'm happy for the players." And there's a lot of Lions fans that are like, "Oh, you mean you weren't happy for the city that made you filthy rich?" And like, you booed him out of the stadium. You cheered when he had to go into the medical tent, and you expect him to kiss your ass in the post-game presser of the game that he lost. Get the F out of here. So
I would have been like, I wish I had one of those "Get the F out" shirts. Every time I hear that, I think I want one of those shirts from the back in the day, WWF.
Yeah,
"Get the F out."
Yeah.
No, you know what? I would have been like, I hate Detroit. I hate Detroit because I almost fought a guy at the Ice House in Somerville because he was from Detroit. He thought I was making fun of his terrible city. But Detroit is horrible. They're known for 2 things: cars and RoboCop. No one else cares. I would have. I know you do.
As a Detroit Lions fan, I care. I'm with you though. Like the point you just made about like, oh, it's like when your quarterback goes to another team. Like, that's a prime example of what you're saying being right. So
because didn't Peyton Manning go from the Colts to the Broncos? Isn't that a thing? See, I know some stuff. And
the Colts loved him. That's the difference.
Yeah, and then people were like booing like Peyton Manning, and I'm like, isn't he like one of the greatest of all time? And like,
they booed him when the game started. They cheered him when he came out because that's a whole different situation. I'll explain it to you off the air. We got to take our final break. We come back. We have a double main event from New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom 18 from January 2024. Stay tuned. We'll be back to wrap up the show right here on Tapouts and Touchdowns. Established in 2008, One Stop Repairs in North Charleston, South Carolina, is your one-stop shop for all of your electronic repair needs. Specializing in cell phones, tablets, computers, laptops, and game consoles, One Stop Repairs offers reputable and quality service with the quickest turnaround time and the most competitive prices in the Low Country. You can find them on Google with an exceptional 4.9 star rating or on Facebook by searching for One Stop Repairs. Call for a quote today at 843-343-6310. That's the number 1, One Stop Repairs. All right, we are back on Tapouts and Touchdowns. Your guy, Billy Rye, PJ Steven. It's okay talking Wrestle Kingdom 18. We are running up against it, so I don't want to rush these 2 matches, but it's the 2 main events on the show. First off, Bryan Danielson in the rematch against Kazuchika Okada. Bryan Danielson won their first match in AEW. Was it what was the pay-per-view? Forbidden Door, something like that. And now Danielson has got the injury. Okada wrestled on a random like Dynamite in a tag team match, and a freak accident saw Bryan Danielson break his orbital bone, so he's still wearing this eye patch. Comes to New Japan to wrestle Okada on Wrestle Kingdom. This match is the second longest match on the card. It goes 23 minutes and 30 seconds. Probably, I don't know. It's obviously the match of the year at this point, in my opinion. I mean, it's
absolutely.
It was a great back and forth. Danielson, I don't know how to explain this match to people who don't watch New Japan or who have given up on Danielson since he left WWE. PJ, give us your thoughts on Danielson versus Okada.
It was the perfect wrestling match. It was such a pure, just back and forth wrestling match. There wasn't any false finish back and forth. There wasn't any, but also it was cool to see Okada get out of his element. He ripped the eye patch off and stomped him in the eye a whole bunch. And it was really well done. It was a great match. The crowd was so hot for Bryan Danielson. They were yesing from the start. I mean, it was so funny. And even the Rainmaker coming out with his the UV light jacket that he had. It was an incredible match, an incredible feature for Wrestle Kingdom 18.
Find a way to go watch this match. I mean,
yeah, absolutely. It's you know, if you're expecting a 1-2 kick out, 1-2 kick out, it's not that. It's hit the finisher, get him down, 1, 2, 3, and it also proved just how devastating. But first of all, let's back up. It told a great story of Bryan Danielson. He wants to break Okada's arm. He wants revenge the whole time. Leading up, he's like, Okada,
it's old school classic wrestling, limb targeting.
I'm going to break your arm, and then I'm going to kick
what he did
your
to his
head
eye.
off.
Yeah.
So he was hitting the arm all night, and it tells the great story of how devastating Okada's Rainmaker is. Because even with a busted arm, Okada hits the Rainmaker twice, and it's a 1, 2, 3. He defeats Bryan Danielson. And the best part of the match to me is the very end. I said it before, Japan loves that sportsmanship, baby.
Yeah.
So the double bow to each other was just tremendous.
Fantastic.
The match was amazing, and it was so New Japan that I loved it.
We haven't gotten a WWE pay-per-view yet. Find a way to go watch this match. You will not be disappointed after watching this match. And it's only literally 23 minutes of your life. Most television episodes are longer than that. So go watch this match between Bryan Danielson and Kazuchika Okada from Wrestle Kingdom 18. Finally, we have made it to the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship match. I tried to jump the gun and go here earlier. The champion, Sanada, defending against Tetsuya Naito. PJ was a huge fan of Sanada being the champion as long as he has been. Unfortunately for PJ Steven, Tetsuya Naito goes over in the longest match on the card, 25 minutes, 43 seconds. Naito, your new IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. PJ, give us your thoughts on this main event of Wrestle Kingdom 18.
I am a big Sanada fan. I was very happy when he moved away from LIJ. Nothing against Naito or LIJ, but I've always been a cold skull Sanada fan. And it was great to see him in the singles division when he defeated Okada. I was so happy for the IWGP Heavyweight Champion. But he had a great run. He had great matches against Yota Tsuji, Evil. But I love the story of these guys coming up because in high school, Sanada and Tetsuya Naito were in the same tryout from New Japan. Tetsuya Naito made it. Sanada did not. Sanada had to go to All Japan to train. He finally made his re-debut. They both had matches against the Great Muta and Kenji Muto, for that matter. Or maybe it was just Kenji Muto. But anyway, which is the same person if you don't know, but different gimmicks.
Yeah.
Like, did you take on Mick Foley? Did you take on Cactus Jack?
Yeah, did you get Cactus Jack or did you get Mankind? Because they're the same guy.
Hey, he's a con man. Anyway, so, but it was great to see. I love that promo. But it was great to see these guys come up. Finally, you get Sanada making his debut in New Japan to help Tetsuya Naito win the IWGP Heavyweight Champion when he debuts as the Cold Skull to join LIJ. Years go by, they become IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team Champions, and then Sanada goes off to create just 5 guys after Suzuki-gun dies down, and now Tetsuya Naito has won the G1, and now we get the main event that we have here. The match was incredible, but that crowd was behind Naito.
Oh yeah,
I was like, man. So please, Sanada, retain. I really wanted him to retain. I really, really did. That being said, Naito finally getting his roll call for LIJ and to get his moment at Wrestle Kingdom was worth watching. Of course, when he won the IWGP Heavyweight and Intercontinental Champion of the Double Gold Dash years ago, his roll call was interrupted by Kenta. So you didn't get that go home, feel good moment. The crowd didn't get that. That was taken away from Naito. So this was Naito's really last chance, is what they were booking it to. His last chance to do that. That being said, I don't care. I wanted Sanada to win so bad. Nothing against Naito. But what happened was, at the end of the match, he's doing the roll call. He was interrupted by Evil, who comes out and starts beating up on Tetsuya Naito. And Sanada swoops in to try and save the day, beats up Evil, throws him out, and gives the floor to Naito to do his roll call. And what was really a touching story was Naito just talking for several minutes about Sanada as he walked down the ramp, and Sanada was crying. I mean, there were tears, and it was it was a little emotional to watch. You had this guy that, he didn't make the New Japan tryout. He had to work his way up from All Japan. He finally goes to New Japan. He's in the back burner with Evil for a long time, the tag team division. He eventually becomes the IWGP United States Heavyweight Champion, then gets injured, has to relinquish it, leaves, comes back. He's back on the back burner because New Japan thinks that he's injury prone, and now he finally becomes the champion, gets to main event at Tokyo Dome. Win or loss, Sanada had an amazing run as champion, and I don't think it's his last one.
So I was going to ask, first of all, except for the winner-take-all matchup, every single title that was defended changed hands on this pay-per-view. Again, the Global Championship was the inaugural win, and then, like I said, the winner-take-all tag team match. One team won titles, but they also retained the ones they had, this being the last title change on the card. To your point, you don't think we're done seeing you don't think it's the only world title reign that we're going to see from Sanada. He walked away crying after this match. You don't think we're not gonna see him for a little while, and he's gonna get a chance to go and rest up and come back? You don't think maybe he's leaving New Japan for a while? Like, what do you think is next for Sanada?
I think the next thing that he does is a G1 win.
Ooh.
Because you got to think about it. He almost went undefeated in the G1 this past year.
You're right.
I mean, so what's to say he can't do that again? I think Sanada gets a G1 win, and we see him again at Wrestle Kingdom, because Sanada is an all natural, old school wrestler and can work tremendously. I mean, he won the New Japan Cup last year, and that's what got him the match with Okada to defeat him. He's an IWGP United States Heavyweight Champion, like I mentioned. Obviously, he's been the Heavyweight Champion. He's a three-time IWGP Tag Team Champion, 2 with Evil, 1 with Naito. He's a never openweight 6-man champion with Bushi and Evil. He's won the World Tag League twice with Evil, 2017 and 18. He's got the record. I think the next thing for him is a G1 win.
Well, I mean, I love the prediction here. PJ, what are your final thoughts from New Japan's Wrestle Kingdom 18 that took place in January of 2024?
So I'm going to wrap it up pretty quick, because I know we're against it, guys, and I really appreciate you guys sticking around, letting us talk about what I think, again, is the greatest pro wrestling on the planet. And this pay-per-view, to me, was super important for New Japan, because what I want to talk about is this is the new generation moving up through New Japan, in my opinion. And I want to go over, we had, Yuya Uemura and Yota Tsuji, 2 former New Japan Young Lions, now work in the Tokyo Dome at Wrestle Kingdom. You had ELP and Hikuleo defeat the old-timers of Hiroki Goto and Yoshihashi. I say old-timers, but they're still full-time contract wrestlers, and they can still go and move, and, that's not what I'm saying. David Finlay defeating Ospreay and Moxley. Ospreay, obviously a seasoned vet of New Japan, and Moxley been in Wrestle Kingdom several times before. And then you have Sanada, who, yes, lost to Tetsuya Naito, who is a more of a veteran in New Japan, and especially main events at Wrestle Kingdom. But to have someone like Sanada, who had the reign for New Japan Pro Wrestling at the time and had that IWGP Heavyweight Championship reign, now main eventing Wrestle Kingdom, it's an obvious thing to me that this is the new generation trying to move in a little bit And especially now with Hiroshi Tanahashi as president, and I know he won the television champion. I don't think that's going to last. Especially with him as the president, he might be stepping away a little bit. And we're going to see, and we're going to usher in, I think, a new era. And again, another class of wrestlers for New Japan Pro Wrestling. And I think this pay-per-view kind of cemented that in.
That's great stuff, PJ. Listen, we had a curtain call lined up, but I think we've run late enough, and I think maybe we'll save the curtain call for another show. Before we get off of here, is there anybody that you want to shout out? Anything that you want to promote or anything before we sign off here and give everybody the rest of their day back?
In 6 minutes, I'm going to be jumping on Michael Davis's podcast, Japan Talk and TNA Talk. I do want to say real quick before we jump off here, man, one more time, how great, how fantastic are the TNA World Heavyweight Champions?
Yeah, listen, if you haven't got a chance to take a look at it, when TNA decided to relaunch with TNA and get rid of the Impact Wrestling, they changed up all their titles and they're fantastic. And I jumped the gun on the exit music, so I apologize. But the new TNA titles look phenomenal. They always have been the premier visual titles in all of wrestling, in my opinion. So no difference to me. Yeah, like PJ said, make sure you go and check out Michael Davis's show, Drop the Mic Wrestling Podcast, wherever it is that you get your podcasts. I believe he's on YouTube as well. I'm actually going to be on that show this week as well, talking the roads to WrestleMania and how some of the superstars can get to WrestleMania, which is why I'm wearing the hat, because we are officially in WrestleMania season now that Wrestle Kingdom is over and done. Make sure, as always, you listen to our football shows. The NFL playoffs are well underway. We are just about through wild card weekend by the time that we're recording this. We are in the fourth quarter of the Steelers-Bills game, and we still have the Monday Night Football game to go. Between the Bucs and the Eagles. So we're going to be doing more football talk this week. I'm not sure when this show is going to go up. The show may go up after the playoffs are over with. I'm not sure. But nevertheless, the NFL playoffs are in full swing. So we're going to be doing more talking about NFL playoffs on Tapouts and Touchdowns. If you want to go and find the other show, the Carolina Panthers show that I co-host alongside Michael Davis and Shannon Smith, go to the Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel or the Keep Pounding Podcast Network, wherever it is that you get your podcast, and check out the Cat Cave, a Carolina Panthers podcast. Listen, thanks to everybody who took the time, whether it was on YouTube, whether it was wherever it is that you get your podcast, take the time to watch or listen to this episode of the Wrestling Show. We've actually got more wrestling shows coming up for you. We are going to do a state of the business in pro wrestling here on the show, as well as the next edition of PJ Stevens' Time Machine, when we go back to WWF from 1997 and talk more fun stuff there. So, for PJ Steven, it's your guy, Bully Rye, and we'll see you next time right here on Tapouts and Touchdowns.